Welcome back to BetterSociety.info. This is our 17th video in our regular series. There is an 18th video that deals with references that's found on a separate page on our website. In the last video I introduced the idea of a classless society. Now, the other two types of societies that we've discussed, the hunter-gatherer societies and the societal pattern, what we call a class-based society, have been around a long time. The hunter-gatherer type society, of course, started tens of thousands of years ago and was the only pattern of society that existed on the earth prior to the development of agriculture and animal husbandry. And then the class-based societies probably started around 14,000 years ago in the area that we call the Fertile Crescent. And it was in this location on the earth where agriculture and animal husbandry was first developed. And so the class-based societies came right along with agriculture and animal husbandry. So these two types of societies, these societal patterns, have been around tens of thousands of years in human history. And the hunter-gatherer maybe hundreds of thousands of years. But the idea of a classless society is relatively new in human history. And so when you have a change in a society, it has to be on incremental steps. I mean, you don't just all of a sudden stop a society and just say, okay, one day we're this way and the next day we're going to be a different way. These things sometimes takes hundreds of years. And so people develop the concepts of the classless society, and then the ideas were talked about and discussed, and then some people tried to implement them. But you see, there's thousands of years behind the development and the implementation of class-based societies, and so changes don't take place very fast, and they don't take place completely. So these types of classless societies are new, and so we carry over concepts from one societal pattern to another. And sometimes the changes don't come easy. I mean, back earlier in our history, it was thought that every nation had to have one religion, that everybody would believe the same way. And that was the case in the hunter-gatherer societies. Those are very simplistic societies. But the same idea existed. There had to be one religion. And we see as history goes along, in more recent times, then people got the idea, okay, well, maybe you could have a nation where there were different types of religions, and it wasn't going to be a big deal. But it was a big deal for a long time. I mean, if you had a nation and somebody came up with a different religious view, and they started worshiping a different way, for a long time, that's one way to get yourself killed. You know, they'll burn you at the stake for believing something religious that was different from what the authorities said. This is how we believe, and everybody better believe this way. So this classless society then has to become a very tolerant society, tolerant of differences. I mean, a classless society isn't a uniform society. It's a multicultural, multi-religion, multi-idea, different ideologies can exist within the same national boundaries, and it wouldn't be a big deal. I mean, if you come to the United States and go to certain places, you see people wearing outlandish clothes, or having their hair purple, or doing things that a lot of other people maybe don't approve of. But to have a classless society, there has to be a tolerance, a freedom, a liberty, to let people exist and leave people alone. And of course the idea behind all of this is that ultimately you'll have a much more productive society. Instead of dictating, somebody dictating from the top of the organization, from the government, that you have to believe this, and you have to act this way, and you have to wear these clothes, and if you don't do this, we're going to punish you, we're going to kill you. So a classless society has to have some structure. It cannot be anarchy. So there's a lot to a classless society, and you have to have much more sophisticated governmental processes, more sophisticated people, in order to have diversity. And diversity is the challenge. I mean, it wasn't by accident that these other societal patterns had so much structure and so much uniformity. So it's very different, and we need to understand these differences. So what we're going to do here is that the next video is going to be a transition, or maybe this is the transition. That I'm going to take a period of time, I'm not sure how many videos it will be, 1 or 2 maybe, and we're going to discuss the transition in the United States of America between the class-based societies and eventually becoming a classless society. And I think people will be really surprised about what really the history of all of this is. So I'm going to sign off now, and the next video though is going to deal with relatively recent American history and our movement toward a classless society and some of the challenges that are related to that. So we'll talk about that next time.